What's up, YouTube? So a couple of days ago, I was listening to the Joe Rogan podcast, and you had Mike Tyson on there. And I'm pretty sure I heard reference to Mike Tyson having his own podcast or something along those lines. So today I'm surfing around YouTube, just looking around, and I bump into Mike Tyson's podcast. And so far, it looks pretty good from what I've been able to see. I think his guest is going to be Steve-O from Jackass. And I think there might be another guest. I'm not too sure who he is, but I think the main guest is going to be Steve-O. So I don't know what they're going to be talking about, what the show's going to be about, but it'd be pretty interesting to see Mike Tyson's new podcast, just to see set up, what he's going to be talking about, what is, how he's going to go about having this podcast. So we're going to listen to a little bit of it, probably just the beginning of his show, and just see how he's doing his podcast. So listen up.
It's so good to see you, Mike, man. You've
Absolutely,
always been
brother.
So good to me. My Mike Tyson stories are so fucking good.
Yeah,
Now I'll go back to when my book came out. This was before we did the Charlie Sheen roast together. Now I saw Mike at the Charlie Sheen roast, and I came up to him and I said, "Hey, Mike, I put out this book." And I told the story about us doing all the cocaine in the bathroom in the book, and the lawyer said it was fine, but I kind of felt weird about it because I didn't check with you. And I'll never forget, Mike looks at me and says, "It happened, you tell it."
Hell yeah.
And it was so great. I thought, man, how cool. I got Mike's blessing. Yeah. And then when we were on stage, I had held back the part about where we were in the psych ward together. I don't think that was in the book. But then because Mike said that night, or when we actually taped the Charlie Sheen roast, they didn't, I don't think, include it in the show. But I was like, yeah, Mike and I were in a psych ward together. And Mike didn't give a fuck about that. I was so psyched. And so then
I was happy to see you because I've been there a couple of times. I haven't seen anybody that I know. I've seen somebody that I know. So that was pretty cool.
So just going to the psych ward alone has to be a pretty crazy, unique, weird experience, let alone having to go there a few times, let alone going there and seeing somebody you know. I mean, if you go to the psych ward and see somebody that you know, that's pretty, I don't really know what to say about that, but
So I went ahead and I made it part of my act, right? In my stand-up. And at one point, I'm doing this interview for like GQ.com. It just seemed like this whatever interview. And I tell this story there, and then all of a sudden, like, boom, it's all over the fucking world. You had to have heard about that a million times. I didn't think anything. Oh, Mike didn't think anything of it. I got a call. We had the same agent, Chris Smith.
Oh, he's nuts. That's my man. Yeah.
So he calls me up and he says, "Hey, Mike and his camp are really unhappy about the way this story went all over the place." And then later he told me, "Mike didn't say shit. I just didn't want you messing with his."
Oh my God.
But yeah, it was. Oh man, how about that Charlie Sheen roast?
That was pretty good too.
Dude, so we taped it. Of course, I broke
That's epic.
Broke my fucking nose at the Charlie Sheen roast.
You're mad, man.
So just that first look, Mike Tyson's podcast looks pretty legit. They're in a decent sized room. Got a couple pictures up there, some boxing gloves, legit microphones and all that. It looks like a pretty legit set up podcast. Yeah, so it looks pretty good.
Insane.
I love that. I'll tell that story too. But
William Shatner says, "Fuck, Steve."
Really? William Shatner says, "What the fuck?"
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's classic. And so when we taped the Charlie Sheen roast, this part I think is so fucking funny. Like when it was like maybe like a week before it actually aired, after we taped it, and Charlie invited everybody that was involved with the roast to his house, this huge fucking mansion. You got to remember
Charlie's house.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is like before shit got real crazy with him. It was after it got crazy at first, but before it got
super crazy.
right.
He was crazy though. Still.
Oh, dude, I mean, he had everybody over to his house before we taped the roast and after when it aired. So it was before we taped the roast when I first met him, and we're at the house, and he like pulled me aside. He
Just
said,
a party.
just to hang. It wasn't like a party Charlie
just hang
Sheen
out.
style. It was more just like everybody meet before we work together.
Okay.
So we're at the Charlie Sheen's house. You know, the first time I met him there, he pulled me aside. He said, "You know, man, Steve-O, you and me, when we go down in flames, we don't fuck around." You know, like, and I felt like that was so cool. And then when
Steve, man, God damn.
Amazing.
and then when we were at his house to watch it, right, which was so crazy because he had that whole like fucking meltdown debacle with the 2.5 Men, and and he had like I guess supposed got fired from the show, and so when the Charlie Sheen roast aired, it aired immediately after the very first episode that featured Ashton Kutcher.
Oh, wow.
Right, Ashton Kutcher replaced him, and so on the whatever the network this premiere with the Ashton Kutcher season was, the Charlie Sheen roast on Comedy Central aired immediately afterwards. So we watched both of them in Charlie Sheen's living room with Charlie Sheen, and he didn't know how they killed off his character. He didn't know what the fuck they did after he left. So we're sitting there in the living room with fucking Charlie Sheen while he watches this
The death of Charlie Sheen.
And it was like they had like he had died, and they had his urn with the ashes, and then like someone like bumbles it and like throws the fucking thing. The ashes go everywhere. There's a huge cloud, and as the cloud of ashes like comes down, Ashton Kutcher appears in the background, like, and Charlie watches that and he goes, "Oh shit, I got to give it to him. That's good." You know? He didn't know what to expect, and so then that same night, I'm like, "Hey, dude, Charlie, let's get a photo, take a selfie." Me and Charlie Sheen, and I have to take the selfie, and then I'm like walking around, and I'm thinking, and I go over to Jeff Ross, and I go, "Dude, check it out. We're in the world's." I said, "I think we're in the world's most expensive crack house." and so I go over to Charlie Sheen. I go over to Charlie, and I'm like, "Dude."
Yeah, you can only imagine how much drugs has passed through Charlie Sheen's house, and how many drug dealers have passed through his house. I mean, and how many millions of dollars that have been exchanged, you know, for drugs, or going to drug dealers, or drug dealers being set up with other people. I mean, you can just only imagine what's gone down in Charlie Sheen's house, or even Mike Tyson's house.
Can I tweet this photo with the caption that says, "I think I'm in the world's most expensive crack house"? And Charlie says, "Hilarious, go for it. Yeah, it's fucking great, I love it." And so I did, and then I had one of my stand-up shows, like local in somewhere in California that weekend. So I'm on the news the next morning, and someone like the lady, like, she's like, "Oh, can I interview you from my thing or whatever?" And she goes, "Is Charlie Sheen sober?" And I said, "I don't know, I don't think so." And because I said that, and because I tweeted about the crack house, I got a fucking phone call from his manager, this dude. He lived next door to him. The dude was furious, and I was like, "Fuck!" I didn't mean to rock the boat or upset anyone, but so then I got a hold of Charlie. He said, "I don't fucking care." The same situation as with Mike.
That's awesome.
But yeah, man, fuck, that whole Charlie Sheen situation is crazy.
You still talk to him ever?
Yeah, have you ever heard from him?
I haven't, but now I saw that he posted that he's been sober for over a year now, which is great.
That's good.
It's great that. But I mean, I can only imagine like the legal situations that he's in now.
Yeah.
I mean, talk about like. Talk about having a lot, and then like
He was just on top of the world. You know what
Right.
I mean? He just got on top. Everybody was like, "What the fuck? Charlie blew up."
Dude, he had like Especially even when he left the 2.5 Men, he turned that into this like unprecedented anger management contract that guaranteed like 90
And I can see that Steve-O is a very good guest to have on your podcast if you're just starting out or just to have on period, because he damn sure can talk his ass off. And his voice sounds like he smokes like 30 packs of cigarettes a day. It's like, god damn.
Episodes or something. Yeah. But in any case, from the Charlie Sheen roast, right? This is the greatest fucking story ever. This is the fucking greatest story ever. And like you'd think like, man, it's crazy. I broke my nose on Mike Tyson's fist at the Charlie Sheen roast, which, by the way, is, in my estimation, the fucking coolest way you could possibly break your nose.
Hell yeah.
You know, like
Steve-O, I don't know, man.
But understand how beautiful it was, because the Charlie Sheen roast was 2011. Right, it was I forget like
it seemed longer than that.
It was 2011. Now what happened was, and this is just so fucking incredible. The 2010 we filmed Jackass 3D, right? And as part of Jackass 3D, my buddy Bam Margera, he's part of the show. He had this trick because we were playing around with the super slow motion camera for the first time. The Phantom camera was brand new. So we had this gag where Bam would sneak up behind you and he would throw a cup of water in your face with one hand, and with his other hand, he had a boxing glove on. He would sucker punch you.
Yeah.
So as the water hit your face, the other side, the slow-mo your whole face.
That was so good.
It was called the Rocky, and they did it in slow motion. This super slow motion face punch set to the Rocky theme music. It's fucking hilarious.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And now when Bam did it to me, it was a real pisser, because I had this idea that I pitched. I said, "Hey dudes, I want to shoot my nipple off with a BB gun."
God,
right?
God
and
damn,
and everybody said, no, dude, that's too dark. You know, but it wasn't
too dark.
It wasn't as.
Yeah, I don't mean to interrupt Steve-O's story, but I'm still kind of wondering who's the guy on the right. I don't think it was said anywhere who he was. I don't know if he's a producer or who this guy is or what.
Much that it was too dark, it was just that, like, there's legal implications when something's imitatable, and particularly if you're going to involve a gun and shooting someone on purpose, let alone in the chest. That's where the problems were. Even though they knew they would never use.
Steve-O.
Even though they knew they would never use the part where I got shot in the nipple with the BB gun, they said, okay, well let them do it anyway, because it's a convenient way to keep me standing in one place in front of the slow motion camera, so that Bam can sneak up and
do the Rocky.
Right. So we set it all up, and we got all the guys. Wee Man shoots this BB into my nipple, and it's still in there. Like, to this day. It's been in there ever since, and I've never taken it out. I love it so much. My little BB nipple.
Holy shit, dude.
Yeah, dude. You're like.
All right. This is for the BB. Oh, weird.
Yeah, it's in there, huh?
Weird.
Okay, so now Wee Man shoots the BB. My nipple's all pointed. I'm standing there checking.
So Steve-O's got a BB in his nipple. I wonder if he goes through metal detectors, if he sets those things off. I bet you he probably does. If the metal detector is sensitive enough, I bet you he probably does set off that metal detector.
Out. I'm thinking, oh, it's so cool that it stayed in. Like, I get to keep it. And Bam sneaks up, throws the water in my face. He fucking punches me, and he actually did it not in front of the fucking slow motion camera, which sucks. And he completely broke my nose. Like, that was the first time I
remember when Johnny Knoxville, what was his name, Butterbean, beat the shit out of him?
Yeah.
Fuck, how can you do that, Butterbean? He cracked his head open.
Insane,
I think he hit his head harder on the floor too.
Yeah,
but
well, I want to ask you about that.
Okay, so this was the first time I broke my nose, and I was really pissed off at Bam, and because he didn't do it on the slow motion camera, and because there was this continuity thing with all this blood coming out of my nipple, like the footage didn't get used. The footage didn't fucking get used at all. So it happened for fucking nothing, and I was so pissed off about it, and I didn't know. Like, I just sort of stewed about it. I waited 2 months. months. It was 2 months before I finally snapped, and I said, "Fucking, I'm getting my nose fixed, and the fucking movie's gonna pay for it." Right, and so I tell the whatever the movie office is, I'm going to this fucking fancy Beverly Hills nose doctor, and you motherfuckers are paying for it, you fucking assholes. And so I go to this doctor with my crooked nose, my broken fucking crooked nose, and the doctor tells me, he says, "Yo, I would love to help you, but it's been 2 months, idiot. It's fucking healed that way.
Done.
It's healed that way, right?"
No.
So this is what the doctor says. He says, I could fix it, but because it's healed that way, the only way I can fix it is to re-break it. The guy says, with a fucking chisel.
Oh.
He says, I got to re-break it with a chisel. And I'm like, oh, well, I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm like, fuck that, I'm good. And so I just lived with my crooked ass nose for another like year, maybe a little more than a year. And then comes the Mike Tyson fucking right? And so I showed up at the Charlie Sheen roast with a crooked ass nose, right? And all I was trying to do was
You hadn't been loaded then. Were you loaded?
No, I wasn't.
You're so
I was completely sober. And I showed up with the fucking roast with a crooked nose. All I was trying to do was get a black eye with Mike. But when I dove into his fist, and I just, like, I don't know, I got my nose on it. I think Mike might have leaned into it. Mike's a solid guy. Mike's a solid guy.
Yeah.
So my nose was so fucking broken. It was significantly more broken when I did it with Mike. But what it was, like, here, I crumple him on the ground. William Shatner is like, what the fuck? My nose is gushing blood. I can tell just without, like, looking in a mirror. I can see just with what my eyes can see. My nose is nowhere near in the fucking right place, dude. My nose was parked under my right eye. I mean, it was dramatically fucking broken. And that was the last thing that happened on the stage. So it's like, okay, now the show's over and everybody's getting up and starting to leave. But then, like, I hear this guy saying, "Steve-O," in the crowd. Like, well, everyone's, milling around like the show's over, but this guy's just charging towards the stage. He's like, Steve-O, your nose needs to be set right now, right? And because of my experience with the fucking nose doctor in Beverly Hills, I know that to be true. So I'm like, okay, wait, there's something to this. This guy knows what he's talking about. So I'm like paying attention, like, okay. The guy goes, your nose needs to be set right now. And he comes up to the stage and I'm like, all right, talk to me. Like, what do I do? And he goes, don't worry, I'm a kung fu instructor. He says, don't worry. He goes, I'm a kung fu instructor. I've set like 20 broken noses. I know what I'm doing.
Oh my God.
But you kind of believed him, though, right?
I totally believed him.
Did he do it?
I totally believed him.
I believed him. A kung fu expert? Yes, help me.
Yeah, and totally. And it's like I had to make the decision on the spot right there. And I'm like, all right, well, going to the hospital and getting it taken care of professionally just sounds like a fucking pain in the ass. This is way more convenient. I got nothing to lose. It's not like he's going to make it look any worse because it was so...
I'm sorry, but one would think that Steve-O, with all his fame and the money that he should have, it shouldn't be a problem going to the hospital, going to the ER, and having a good doctor set your nose and take care of your nose. I know you may not want to get up and go out and do all that, but I mean, it's worth it. I mean, your nose is on the front of your face. That's one of the first things people see. And you're in movies and, you're on TV and filming a lot. So that's probably, you want to get that taken care of. I don't know if I would take a chance with some random guy in the crowd to fix my nose or even consider something like that. But that's just me.
Bad. So I just sat on the edge of the stage and I trusted this weird kung fu guy who turned out to be a really nice guy, but like he just puts a thumb on either side and he's just just wrenches it and fixes it. And dude, I'll be damned if that fucking guy did not fix my nose completely perfect to where I showed up at that roast that night with a crooked nose. I got a Mike Tyson kung fu nose job and I left with my nose perfectly fucking straight and I got it done for free. It's the greatest story ever. And
That's genius.
And Mike, if I didn't break my nose on your fist, it would still be crooked.
You fixed it.
You fixed my face, Mike.
Thank God, man. Thank God. Yes.
Yeah. I put together this whole...
Man, I couldn't believe that night.
I put together
that's
this whole before and after. There was like when it was broken from Bam, and then like how it healed Crooked, and then when it was broken from Mike, and then how it fixed after that. It's the great. I'll repost it. Man. I'll post it again to promote this. And if anybody wants to see these before and after photos, this 4-photo sequence, it's unbelievable.
Yes.
Go to my Instagram.
Well, Steve, what happened to make you decide to just...
So that was a pretty good story from Steve-O about getting his nose broke and a couple other things they talked about. So this is pretty much just looking at Mike Tyson's new podcast, which it looks pretty legit. You know, it looks pretty legit. He has a nice, pretty good looking building or room that he's in. He has all the equipment set up. He's got a few things in there, boxing gloves and pictures, signed, autographed, whatever. And he has a pretty good guest, Mr. Steve-O from Jackass. So his podcast looks pretty good. Looks pretty legit. I don't know, maybe have to do a review again on his podcast to see if he has somebody else on there or who else he has on there. But at this point, Mike Tyson's podcast looks pretty good. All right, I guess that wraps it up.